things are getting very interesting too for the reason to hold gold and silver. I mean, the Fed, who's supposed to be doing quantitative tightening, stealthily bought $48 billion worth of treasuries in the past couple of days. When you look at a dollar that's fallen 9% since January, this will accelerate it when you see the Fed coming in and very quietly, not really announcing anything, but quietly buying up what appears to be, the mid portion of the treasury market, the 3 and the 10 year. It's all very contrived, but it's also very inflationary.
In June 2022, the Federal Reserve kicked off its quantitative tightening program, an important move in its battle against inflation. Rather than reinvesting the proceeds from maturing securities, the Fed allowed its balance sheet to shrink gradually. This marked a sharp pivot from years of easy money policies, signaling a more aggressive stance on reining in rising prices. Beginning in March 2022, it also raised its benchmark rates by 5 percentage points. However, despite its aggressive policies, the Fed has had a bit of difficulty achieving its 2% target for inflation. The reason for this failure might not be far-fetched. In a recent interview with Liberty and Finance, Andy Schectman, a renowned bullion dealer and president of Miles Franklin Precious Metals, revealed that the Fed may have been quietly buying up treasuries, despite the ongoing quantitative tightening, spending almost $70 billion on 10-year and shorter-dated government bonds in the past few days. The purchases suggest that demand for U.S. debt is weaker than expected, despite relatively high yields. Rather than drawing in global capital, Treasury securities are requiring central bank intervention to remain stable. This raises serious questions about the state of the financial system. If the Fed is buying again, unofficially and without public explanation, it signals renewed pressure in the bond market. These developments aren't being ignored by U.S. states, which are now passing legislation that recognizes gold and silver as legal tender. As of May 2025, 11 U.S. states have enacted laws recognizing gold and silver as legal tender. These states include Utah, Wyoming, Oklahoma, Arizona, Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, Indiana, Kansas, South Carolina, and West Virginia. And the movement is spreading quite rapidly. In addition to these states, another 20 states have similar bills under consideration. These are practical moves to restore monetary options that align with historical definitions of money: tangible, finite, and free from centralized devaluation. We will present clips from Andy's interview as he discusses the importance of these developments. Please watch, like, and share this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications bell for more insightful analysis about the gold and silver market. We appreciate your support and hope you enjoy the video. Today's video is proudly sponsored by EMCD, the platform that makes navigating cryptocurrency as easy as it gets. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned investor, EMCD offers an intuitive interface and a comprehensive, all-in-one ecosystem that takes the complexity out of buying, storing, and earning from crypto. But here's the exciting part. Mining with EMCD has never been easier. Just take Bitcoin, one of the most popular coins in the world, which saw a 124% rise last year. With impressive growth like that, it's no wonder interest in mining is at an all-time high. The good news is, getting started in mining has become significantly simpler, and EMCD is here to guide you through the process. With EMCD, you don't need to worry about the technicalities. They offer turnkey, ready-to-use mining farms hosted in professional data centers. EMCD handles everything, from setup and hosting to maintenance, while you simply manage your mining operation online and watch your earnings grow. Curious about how it works? Check out the real-time dashboard to see exactly how your investment is performing. It's a crystal-clear experience where you can view your mined bitcoins, earnings forecasts, payouts, and more, all in one place. You can switch between 1-day, 7-day, or 30-day views to see your stats and earnings instantly. Check out the live hash rates in the Workers section and see your total earnings in the Rewards tab. No more guessing, just transparency and clarity. And here's the best part. EMCD operates its farms in regions with cheap electricity, places like Asia and Africa, so you can start mining with entry points as low as $3,990. With payback periods from just 12 months, your investment starts paying off fast. EMCD is one of the world's leading mining pools, with over 400,000 active users and 12 plus Bitcoin mined every day. This is your opportunity to join the action. Links are in the description. Don't miss your chance to get in on mining now.
Well, I think that the trend is well underway of gold and silver being, or more so gold than silver. I mean, on the state level, there is silver too, but really on the state and on a broader level, maybe even globally, gold, I think, is on its way to be reintegrated into the monetary system. There are 11 states right now that recognize gold as and silver as U.S. currency, making them legal tender. It's a big deal. And also you have contract law, who makes contracts legally enforceable in those states that would settle in gold and silver. There are others, maybe 2 times that, over 20 more that have it either in process or in front of their legislature. Obviously, Florida is one that just signed this, or it's, I believe, just has to be signed by DeSantis. It's all but done. You got Missouri, you have Oklahoma, you have Texas, Utah, Wyoming, Alaska. These states are doing just that. They're allowing their constituents exodus from the fiscal irresponsibility and the silly monetary policy where, just since January, the dollar has lost 9%, right? And so I don't know what gold is up since January. I could probably figure that out. Since January, gold is up. Let's see, what that would be, 6 months basically. Well, since January, gold is up. Was that? Gotta go back a little. Oh, no, right there. It was about 2,700. So it's almost, it's up $500 or so. So it's up about 20% while the dollar is down 9 for a net 30%. And that's just in a very short period of time. So yeah, I think it's fantastic that these states are recognizing the fact that holding your wealth in dollars is a recipe for going broke, let alone the risks that it poses within the banking system. But let's hope that this is a trend that continues and we start to see more and more states sign on to allowing their constituents to settle in gold and silver. Now, most of these states, it's not mandatory. The legislation reads, if a purveyor, a shopkeeper would like to accept gold and silver and you're willing to trade with it, why then it can be legal tender. So you can't make someone do it. But look, if you would have asked me this years ago, I said there's not a chance in Haiti that we will ever see gold and silver being reintroduced at the state level as legal tender. Maybe the federal level, maybe in my wildest dreams. But it's interesting that the states are taking the lead here. And when you look at the current administration, who undoubtedly understands gold with the massive imports, which we can talk about in a moment, deliveries on COMX really is what I want to talk about, because there's an awful lot of them with, we've talked about Scott Bessent. We've talked about the tweet that Trump made on Easter Sunday. We've talked about Judy Shelton. I mean, there's so much going on with gold in particular. And I think the current administration understands it. So if we've ever had a chance of seeing this expand just past 11 states and maybe even something on a federal level, this is the time. So I think, what can people do? Well, if any of the states that have this either in committee or in front of the legislature, people are living in those states, obviously reach out to your representative and bombard them with emails. And it's silly that the Constitution says money is specie, gold or silver, and it's treason to issue anything that isn't and illegal. I haven't tried to spend gold coins anywhere yet, but you never know. Maybe it becomes commonplace as time goes by. And things are getting very interesting too, for the reason to hold gold and silver. I mean, the Fed, who's supposed to be doing quantitative tightening, stealthily bought $48 billion worth of treasuries in the past couple of days. Well, actually even more than that. I take that back, 34.8 billion in 10-year bonds over 2 days, and 14 billion. Actually, it is. I was right. It's actually almost $70 billion that they put into 10-year and 3-year treasuries over the past 3, 4 days. So, what was there no demand despite these treasuries earning over 4%? Um, is there no demand for our treasury? And this is a pathway to much higher inflation. And maybe this is why Powell talked about potentially having to abandon the dual mandate. In other words, let inflation go because we can't do both. And so, when you look at a dollar that's fallen 9% since January, this will accelerate it when you see the Fed coming in and very quietly, not really announcing anything, but quietly buying up what appears to be, the mid portion of the Treasury market, the 3 and the 10 year. It's all very contrived, but it's also very inflationary.
Historically, movements like this tend to emerge when inflation becomes persistent, monetary policy becomes incoherent, or public trust starts to erode. We are seeing signs of all three. The Fed's policy actions are increasingly difficult to reconcile with its stated objectives. Inflation, although lower than its peak, is proving difficult to fully contain, and confidence in the long-term value of the dollar is visibly weakening. At the same time, influential voices in financial policy circles are reintroducing gold into the conversation. Judy Shelton has long argued for a return to sound money principles. Donald Trump's social media post about gold on Easter Sunday may seem minor, but it reflects growing political interest in alternatives to fiat currency. And behind the scenes, gold deliveries and withdrawals from COMX suggest that institutional players are positioning for a shift. The trend is gradual, but it is real. Gold is being reintegrated into the monetary system, not through a sudden overhaul, but through a steady accumulation of policy changes, political signals, and market responses. Whether this eventually leads to national-level adoption is unknown. But what is clear is that states are no longer waiting for Washington to act. They are creating their own financial safeguards, and in doing so, are redefining the future role of gold and silver in the American economy. Let's get back to Andy's video.
Just like go back to 1971 when Nixon closed the gold window. Gold was $35 an ounce. I mean, it's lost 96.7% of its value in my lifetime. I was born in 1970. So, it lost 9% since January. It lost 96 or 7% since 1971. And you can go back through all the time, go back to 33 and do it, go back to 1960 and do it. You'll find comparisons where, most of the time gold maintains your standard of living, and sometimes it even accentuates it. But to keep all of your wealth in dollars right now is as silly as can be. It's as dumb as a mud wall. It's a guaranteed recipe for going broke. And I think, as Rick Rule often says, if you are not a contrarian, you're destined to be a victim. And it won't be easy. The volatility that we've seen lately is fantastic. I mean, up 50, down 50, up 100, down 75, up 120, down 200. I mean, it's crazy. So it won't be easy, but I do think that kind of signifies maybe approaching some sort of a resolution in this system. Maybe it be a reset or a blow off or a correction or whatever the heck it means. But when we see the Fed having to come in and buy up that much in the way of treasuries, it signals that the demand for our debt is waning. At the same time, you're seeing, much of the world, the Asian countries, along with what used to be adversaries, now finding a path to being allies. Japan and South Korea and China, they're all joining together, pushing back against the tariffs and really the hegemony, and settling transactions across new technology, the bridge technology, and China opening up vaults all around the world. Just opened one in Saudi Arabia. They want to expand it and open to internationalize the yuan. People said that would never happen, and settle the imbalances in gold. That's why they want to open up vaults in other parts of the world. At the same time, they say, by the way, that technology will be open to non-BRICS nations as well. This is the M-Bridge technology. So the whole thing is beginning to accelerate. And that's why I wonder, you look at all of the moves that Trump has made since he's been in office, and they have not been friendly to the dollar. So you have to wonder to yourself, I mean, is it missteps, or is it coordinated? Do they understand this as part of the plan? I don't know, but won't be easy and it's going to be volatile. And one day you'll feel like a hero, the next day is zero. And, no one ever said investing would be easy or protecting your money. In fact, my grandfather always used to say to me, making money is easy, Andy, saving it's not, keeping it's not. And never made sense to me, but, it does now. I mean, where do you feel safe? Your banks with bail-in legislation, the market with the great taking and the change of the Universal Commercial Code. Where do cryptos? Is that safe? Is it safe in metals? Who knows? Where is it safe? What's the easy path? There is none. So um, I think that banking on not only 5,000 years worth of historic wealth, but also watching what the biggest money in the world is doing. And the deliveries on COMX, I think, are indicative of the biggest money in the world. Tells me that for me, I feel comfortable not being the poster child for Finance 101 and being a little bit heavier than most would consider prudent in gold and silver, which to me is not an investment. It's money, it's wealth.
When Basel III goes into effect in the US, I guess that's July 1st or so, will it make the big banks in the US buy up gold? Will that wake up the average person up to what's going on?
Well, it very well may. I mean, it's interesting because the banks are selling silver. I'll talk about that in a moment, but it appears as though they're buying gold. The May COMEX contract, I think the first day of delivery had the second highest number of contracts that said will stand for delivery, 9,306. And since then, the deliveries that were written subsequent are almost at 16,000. It's an all-time record. And so, you're talking 16,000 times 100 ounces of gold. That stood for delivery here in the May contract. In fact, it's the most number of contracts that have been written after the first day's notice than in any other COMEX contract in history. Usually the contracts that are written after the first delivery day notice are standing for delivery as well. And this is a full-blown run on physical metal. And, does it leave the COMEX or does it not need to leave the COMEX because it's the banks backing those positions? Whoever is doing this and standing for delivery, and I would assume it's the banks in this case, is demanding real gold, no longer the paper IOUs. And the trust in this entire system, I believe, is breaking down. At the same time, you're seeing other establishments, namely the Shanghai Exchange and others in the UAE, soon to be the BRICS Metals Exchange, Moscow Exchange. These are gaining notoriety. They are gaining credibility. In 2002 or 3 or 4, when it was that the Shanghai Exchange was built, no one gave it any second thought. And now it's fast approaching one of the most, I think, maybe even the price setting kind of right now for gold. It is kind of setting the price for gold in my mind. And you can see what happens when they were on vacation for 5 days and they knock the hell out of it. And then bang, they open back up and it's up $200. It just seems to me that the physical demand coming out of Shanghai is slowly taking place for the West.
What we've outlined in this video reflects more than a series of policy choices. It suggests a growing divergence between official narratives and actual market behavior. The Federal Reserve's quantitative tightening program, which began in 2022, was intended to reduce inflationary pressure by shrinking the balance sheet and raising interest rates. Yet despite these measures, inflation remains sticky, and now there's credible evidence, via Andy Schectman and others, that the Fed may have resumed large-scale Treasury purchases behind the scenes. This quiet intervention challenges the idea that demand for U.S. debt remains strong. If high yields are no longer attracting enough buyers, and the Fed is stepping back in as a silent participant, it raises important questions about the stability of the U.S. bond market and the credibility of monetary policy. Meanwhile, the legislative moves at the state level are equally significant. With 11 U.S. states now recognizing gold and silver as legal tender, and at least 20 more considering similar measures, there's a clear signal that trust in fiat currency is weakening, not only among individuals, but also within political institutions. These laws aren't symbolic. They're legal mechanisms to provide citizens with alternatives to the U.S. dollar, alternatives that can't be inflated away or controlled by central authorities. Historically, Shifts like this tend to occur when inflation becomes persistent, monetary policy becomes inconsistent, or public trust erodes. We are arguably facing all three. Add to this the increased activity in COMX gold withdrawals, growing institutional interest in physical precious metals, and the re-emergence of gold in 2008 public discourse, from Judy Shelton's sound money advocacy to political figures referencing it directly, and it becomes clear that the monetary landscape is changing. The reintegration of gold into the financial system may not happen through a sudden return to a gold standard. Instead, it's evolving through small but steady adjustments, state legislation, investor behavior, and market dynamics. What remains to be seen is whether this bottom-up momentum will eventually pressure federal policy to follow. If today's video has given you valuable insights into the gold market and its complexities, make sure to like this video so others can benefit from the discussion as well. Share it with anyone you know who's following the gold market or interested in understanding the deeper dynamics at play. And of course, subscribe to the channel for more expert commentary and analysis that dives into the trends shaping the financial world today. Thanks for watching.